It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today I'm going to be reviewing another keyboard, but before I get to that, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been involved with the 1200 subscriber giveaway. So initially I'd said, I was going to go and give away a keyboard, a 60% keyboard that I'd built, the Harold IV 60% parts from Taobao, and if we had hit 1300 subscribers, I would also give away a blue DSA keycap set to match along with it. And so far, we've actually completely smashed through that, and we're now at 1400 subscribers. So that is absolutely amazing. Thank you to everybody who's come along, of course, to have a crack at winning the prize. I do wish you good luck. There's still a couple of weeks to go, and it will be drawn after the 5th of March. Now, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to up the ante at another subscriber level, but I will think about that as we get closer towards the end. I don't know if I've got anything miscellaneous that could potentially go with it just to sweeten the pot or something like that. So today, of course, as I've just mentioned at the start, I'm reviewing another keyboard here. And before we go any further, I have to say that this review is not a paid advertisement, but the product was provided to me courtesy of GearBest. So let's get right into it. Now, GearBest have sent me a MOTOSPEED keyboard, and the model of it is the CK61. Now, I have heard of MOTOSPEED before. I'm not 100% sure if I've actually recalled the particular model, CK61, from other review channels that I've had a look at and posts on Reddit and so forth. So before we get into the box, like I like to do with these keyboards that do get sent to me, let's check out the actual listing to see what's promised on the internet on that side of the screen, and then we can have an idea of matching it to what we actually get within the box. So let's switch over and check out the listing. So here it is from GearBest itself. It's a not bad price. Like, you would probably compare this to approximately a poker RGB, really, in terms of the fact that it is a 60%. Now, what I do find really interesting, what I'm really keen to get into to see here, is it's actually got the Kailh Box switches in it. I do find this really interesting simply because this is the first OEM keyboard that I have in my collection that is with box switches. Now, the other week I did the Alfawise, and that had JWH switches, which I'd never even heard of before. And of course, everything else that I've had previous has either been Kailh normal switches, they've been Gateron switches, they've been Cherry switches, and even the is it the Furuba, the Fuhua switches, which was the sort of white Alps mount style clicky on the Japanese Philco. So this will be really cool to see what they've put into this for Kailh Box Switch. Now, this is a RGB model keyboard, as I've mentioned, so we can zip down and we can see it's designed specifically for gaming. The video is to do with a gaming mouse, but obviously I don't have a mouse to go with this. And it says it's Kailh Box switches, 16.8 million, 2 millisecond response, which is, pretty amazing. Anti-ghosting, ABS plastic, it's not wireless, 1.4 meter cable, good size length, it's just USB port, 80 million cycles, so it's obviously higher than the standard Cherry 50 mil. About 0.6 for the box and 0.5 for the actual keyboard itself. Some fancy graphics showing what the layout looks like, and just a quick look at the layout here. It looks pretty standard, which is fantastic, which means you're likely to be able to swap keycaps out to suit whatever you want yourself. So it says blue switch design. Now, box switches, clicky and blue, so is it likely to be a pale blue switch? Maybe. It's not likely that it's going to be the box navies unless if they absolutely rush this, because from what we know, the box navies had been delayed unless this is a very new production model. And besides that, it doesn't tell us very much at all. So let's actually check out what I've got in front of me. Ta-da! So there's the box itself. Survived the trip over here pretty well. MOTOSPEED, live for games. Now on the front, it's got the particular model, CK61 RGB, a bunch of Chinese, and then there's the English version of it. 14 lighting effects, multimedia, free of EEPROM memory, a dot flash memory chip. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that means you can program it or something. It's black as marked here. Not that it has any other color options, and it says box. So I'm guessing that is probably something to do with it being box switches. So over here there's just the barcode. There's nothing in particular that I can make heads or tail out of that SKU. And then there's nothing all the way around. There's nothing on the bottom of it. So pretty standard. And now let's open this up for the first time, and there we go. Let's see what we get in the box. What's in the box? Now, I do apologize a little bit if there's a bit of noise happening in the background. There's a fan and the AC is going because today is an awfully hot day. It's about 34 degrees and my place has been shut all day, so it's kind of just built up that heat and just trying to knock it down a bit with the AC. Okay, so fairly standard kind of delivery here. We've got a bit of registration paper or something like that. It's just all in Chinese. Not very helpful if you don't read or write, speak Chinese. Well, not really speak. And then we have a very thick, lots of pages in here. Manual by the looks of it. The front section is Chinese. Then we get into some English. Then we've got Japanese. We've got Korean. We've got German. And then we start getting to some other languages. Italian, Spanish, Czech, Russian. I'm not quite sure what that is. But let's just have a quick look at the English bits. So it gives us the dimensions, gives us the maximum current draw, working voltages, and then we've got a whole bunch of different functional keys and light switching order. So, you know, first of all, I'm going to say that this has a very big thumbs up and tick of approval from me because it fully defines what's happening. And as we know from the AJAS review, I didn't have a very good time because I couldn't actually figure out what they were. So we got some good, I would say, medium density foam here protecting the keyboard. And there's the cable. It's detachable, which is really cool. It's a USB-C. Is that right? Is that a USB-C connector? Now, if I look on the website, it says USB port wired interface USB 2.0. So that didn't really describe the fact that it had this unusual USB connector, which I think is the C connector. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Just gonna hold that up. I think that's the C connector with that rounded because it doesn't matter which way you plug it in. So, and there's your standard plastic key pull living underneath, which we're not going to bother with. Now, just, I can definitely tell you, it's got the clickiness to it. And let us check it out. Rightio. So, first look, first impressions. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just gonna move the box aside and we can pop it down there. Right. Well, it's definitely a 60%. Weight. All right. Yeah, I can feel it's about maybe that kind of 500 gramish. First look is the port is in the middle, so it's not off to one side. It is quite common with a lot of 60% keyboards. It's smack bang there in the middle. If we go to the underside, there are no flip out feet. So you're pretty much stuck with the angle that they've put in on this case. If you like a bit of adjustability, that's just too bad. Now, there's no notable screws that are immediately visible. It doesn't feel like any screws underneath the labeling here. They do have 4 rubberized bumps that are sort of pre-installed on that. They're very low bumps though, so but it is more of an anti-slip. Now, whether there's a screw underneath that or not is to be seen. Now, do I dare? They're pretty solid. Ugh. See, I'm having difficulty trying to pry one up. And no, there's definitely nothing underneath that. So that's just stuck on. And that's kind of to be expected because it's fairly normal for 60% to actually be through that. Now, the keycaps are a obvious gaming style keycap. It's got the caps that have the shine through, my mental blank, end of the week, as I'm recording this. And pretty square keys. They look pretty OEM in profile. There's nothing very surprising at all in there. But you know what? It's a not bad angle. It's quite comfortable, and the clicking is quite muted. So now, of course, probably not hearing that very well because of the microphone position. So I guess before we even plug it in, let's just give it a bit of a sound test to see what that's like. So let's just go all the way down, and here we go. I do quite like that. The sound quality of the switches and the keycaps is actually really nice. It has like a mutedness to it, but it's not super sharp, it's not super obnoxious, it doesn't sound pingy, and the spacebar, it has like this nice click to it, but it doesn't have kind of stabilizer pingy or a plate ping to it. So I'm actually really surprisingly pleased with how this little 60% sounds. Now, let's get into a bit of a stress test here. So let's go with the twist. Oh, you know what? I'm actually starting to get more and more impressed with this. Now, I can flex it, but I'm actually putting quite a lot of force on that, and it's not really going anywhere. It is twisting a little bit, it is flexing, but that case, like looking at the size of that, that's actually doing a really great job of holding it together. Now, of course, it could be because of the fact it is a 60% keyboard, so it's a much smaller PCB natively, and depending on where the screw mounts are on this, I would say it's also going to be holding it quite firmly to the case. So I'm very impressed with that. Very low flex in terms of the twist. So much so that I would say if I flexed it and then I left it, there's a little bit of wobble left on that, but it's okay. It's okay. I would say that's actually quite durable. Now, if I'm pressing really hard on that, there's a little bit of flex there as well, but you know what? You're going to be really pushing quite hard to feel that. It feels very solid, so very impressed with that. Now, I talked at the start of the video in regards to it's got box switches, so the listing says, and even though one of them says Kailh Box Switches and it says blue clicky, I wonder what's in here, so let's get our keycap puller. Yes, I have more than one and I have a particular preference to it, and let's check out. Right, so they've got box whites in them. What can I say? They're box whites, they are clicky, but for them to write blue clicky, that is a complete fail. So I'm not surprised that they sound really great, because box whites do sound really great, and they're a fantastic switch. Remembering that they do have an IP67 rating, which means they are essentially dust proof, and they are waterproof for up to 30 minutes, I believe, at a depth of 1 meter or something around that. You can look up IP ratings anyway. So there we go. Now the plate looks like it's plastic. It sounds like it's plastic, so I'm not too surprised, but it's great that they've got box switches in them, even though they are box whites. Now if we have a look at the underside of the keycap there, not really getting terribly great focus from my camera. Come on, it's trying to focus on everything else below it. There we go. So it's pretty standard. It's the sort of translucent plastic that's been shotted over with a bit of black, and then they've laser etched away the actual legend, and that of course provides it with the shine through capability. There's nothing terribly exciting about it in terms of the thickness. You can see that as I'm pressing on it, there's a little bit of flex happening on it. They're not the thickest caps in the world at all, but I wouldn't say that they're terribly flimsy either. And I think that does help lend itself to a bit of that nice sound that you do get out of these, that enriched sound. So let's just put that back. And of course, in terms of stabilization, let's get one of these in theory stabilize keys. Whoa, what the heck? Wow, check this out. So if I try and block everything else, see if I can get the camera to focus. Look at that. I've never seen this before. This is a new stabilizing jig. So it's got these two inserts. They're kind of like a knockoff of a Co-Star. So they've got these inserts that are going into the MX, but they've got like a cherry kind of plate mount arrangement here. So it's like a cherry plate mount stabilizer, and either I've managed to rip it all out completely, because if that's how cherry plate mounts work, I've never actually successfully ripped them out before, because I've never actually had plate mounts. Maybe they just knock off plate mounts that have just popped out super easily. Okay, I never realized that's what they were like. So I don't know if these are genuine, most likely not, but it's one way to destabilize your keys. Maybe I didn't realize I put that much force into it. I don't know if there's a particular orientation to this, so I'm going to oh, it just clips right in. Okay, so I guess maybe this is how plate mounts work, or at least it's a knockoff of a plate mount. Cherry seems to work just fine. Oh, there you go. There you go indeed. Now, layout. So it looked like it was a standard layout. 125, 125, 125. Looks to be a 625, 125, 125, 125, 125. Pretty good. Should be not a problem to replace everything, and the rest of the keycaps as standard. Now, of course, everyone's like, stop talking. Let's get to the light show. So, let's get to the light show. Undo the cable. I don't actually have a USB-C as part of my cables already connected, so I've got my extension, my USB extension, which allows me to plug in stuff locally. Let's just undo this a little bit. Let's plug in one end of this, and then let's go in the other. Hey, check it out. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Looks pretty snazzy to me. Now that's got a good level. Of course, my camera and the background lighting is going to not reflect what it actually looks like in real life in front of me, but there's not terribly much that I can do about that. So to start off with, I'm just going to turn off the room light, and then we can appreciate what it actually looks like. Now, of course, as it is still afternoon, about 5 o'clock in summer, so my background is still quite lit, but that shouldn't be affecting the downward camera because it's a reasonable darkness, and you can appreciate what it's doing. It's pretty. I do like that. I actually think the color mode on this is nicer compared to the Alfawise, but personal preference. So let's check out a couple of these modes on the booklet and see what we can get. So, standard edition, function 5 to 6 key for fixed game mode button light. What does that even mean? I'm going to read through some of these before I decide to mess around, just so that okay, so function escape restores factory settings. Very important. The fact that it has a built hard reset, I like. So we can mess around and see how we go. So function 5, oi, look at that. So that's your typical sort of gaming pattern here. Function 6, okay, so now I get what they mean. So function 5 is kind of like your FPS kind of gameplay, you know, your WASD with like reload, and or if you're playing PUBG, that kind of thing, with a couple of extra stuff on the side, crouch for control for crouch and shift for run. And then function 6 turns into your mobile style kind of lighting effects, where you've got, you know, items or spells, spell slots or things like that, and then you've got like your standard, you know, skill shots and stuff like that, and flash or heal or whatever it is that you're using on the other keys. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now it says it supports 14 kinds of stunning lighting effects. So here we go. Function O and P is speed adjustment, and function U and I is for brightness. So let's go back to factory reset. Oh, works. I love it. I love it having a function that reset. And they actually do have these already printed on them. So I don't know if that's going to pick up very well. Yeah, you can. So you can see there's these secondary legends on it, and the secondary legends is the speed as well as the brightness. So let's go and rack the brightness all the way down. So it's off, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So all the way up, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's got actually 3 levels of lighting and off. So that's all right. Now at the moment, it's kind of cycling at a, I don't know, maybe once every 1,000, 2,000, 3, like maybe one every 3 seconds. And let's go with increasing or decreasing the speed. Increase the speed. All right, that's okay. It's not terribly fast. And then if we slow it all the way down, yeah, it's kind of slower, you know, a much more gentle evolution of color. So that's cool. So let's hard reset that again. You can lock stuff, so there's no issues with that. Function right alt dynamic effect. I don't even know what that means. Click from left to right. Okay, so if I go right alt, is that, no, I don't even know what that did. Function right alt dynamic effect direction switch. Click from left to right and then click right to left. So, oh, okay. I think it's the color is cycling this way, and then it can cycle the other way. That's all right. Not that I'm really noticing it very strongly here. Function app to key lightning mode. So where's the, there's the app. Okay, so there we go. So we're seeing a full RGB rainbow effect here. We're getting, oops, there's like a pulse bouncing up and down. That's just straight up fixed. We've got solid color, breathing mode by the looks of it. We're changing the breathing mode. No, it's not a breathing mode, it's just a straight through cycle. It seems to be like a pulse chain here. A bit of chaotic movements. Whoa, completely lost the focus there. Snaking it, and I think that's explosive mode. Yep. And then we're back to the front mode. Now it has actual recording, so function 1 to achieve transcoding is what it's saying. Function 2 transcoding, 3, 4, and then you can win lock it. So I'm not going to bother with the sort of transcoding mode, only because I don't want to mess around too much with it, even though yes, I can just factory reset it like that, but it's not really much need to it. And it does go into a lot more detail on the following pages in regards to actually doing some more sort of funky stuff to it. So you know what, that's actually, I quite like that. You know, I've never really been an RGB kind of person before the last couple of keyboards, and now that I have this opportunity to play around with RGB, it is quite pretty. And the box switches, like, that's really saturated because of the camera, but from where I'm sitting, if I tilt that so the light's not straight away in it, that's still really bright, isn't it? I must say the housings are really nice at diffusing the light here, and to be honest, the actual way that it looks versus what the camera is displaying is vastly different. The camera is saturating the light out, unfortunately, so you're not being able to get and appreciate it. Now, I am only using webcams here, so the reproduction of what you're seeing and the brightness and the contrast and everything else is not as good as if I did have a proper camera setup, but that's just something that, you know, we'll slowly make our way towards it if I can save up the money and funds, if I'm not spending them on keyboards or prototyping PCB and stuff like that. So yeah, like, there's not very much else I can say except for the fact that this keyboard is actually really impressing me. It feels solid, it sounds great, it's got box switches in it, which I really like at the moment. I've got some box navies that I'm waiting to still build something with. It's got a standard layout, so you can easily change keycaps if you want something else. It's got a bunch of different lighting modes to suit your moods. It's got presets for if you do gaming of a particular kind or type. It's got factory reset, so, you know, if your kid comes along and is button mashing and messes up your lighting, you can always go, you know what, I'm just going to factory reset that. Comes with a USB-C connector, so it doesn't matter which way you plug it in. In terms of the negatives, the cons of this keyboard, I would say it doesn't have flip out feet. So if you do like adjustment, for me, I do like having the adjustment, but this is actually a reasonable angle. The other con, I suppose, is it's really light. Like, 500 grams doesn't sound terribly light, but in terms of keyboards, especially for me, because I'm used to full-size keyboards, having a bit of weight to stop it from moving, like, I'm not putting a lot of force into this, right, and it's moving, it's sliding, even though I've got a textured surface and it's got 4 rubber feet. Bit of weight would be really, really good. Other than that, you know, I actually don't have much to say. Like, very impressed, and for the price tag that's currently advertised, less than $60 odd, with free shipping, it's very hard to go past this. Of course, you know, I don't know how this is going to be reliable in terms of long term and the quality of the PCB and stuff like that. Who knows? Who knows? So I'm going to unplug that. There we go. I'm going to turn the light back on. And I just want to check out the mounts for this as just a bit of completeness, because it is screwed in. So you can see there's a screw right there. There's one underneath there, underneath the shift key. Let's see if I'm going to pop that. Look at that, the stabilizers came off again. So whatever these clones are, they're not holding very well onto the wire at all. Now, managed to pull that one off too, and the wires are sticking right up. So that's another negative, in that these stabilizers, they do the job, but they're not very good if you're trying to decap. There's another one up here. Now, do we want to take this apart and just check it out underneath? Part of me says, don't do it. The video is going to be even longer than usual. And the other part of me says, well, you already do long videos anyway, so it shouldn't matter. And maybe the people want to see what it looks like. So, now, because these are plate mounted, I shouldn't actually have to, unless if the spacebar is holding a screw underneath it, which it's not, and the stabilizer stabs just came right off. Although that's really interesting. I've never seen spacebars that have had that support shotting in it. That's all the screws that I can see. So, you know what? Let's get the screwdriver. let's have a crack and check it out underneath. Now I've not done this for any other keyboard, so this is kind of exciting for me because it'll be the first time I'm doing this. And I don't know what I'm expecting to see, but maybe we can have a look at the quality of, you know, the joints, components, the SMD or whatever it is that they've got. Oh, this is not. Hey, there we go. They're using self-tapping screws. They're not even using like normal screws. But I suppose if it's just got a plastic standoff in the case, then that's not too surprising, because the plastic's going to need to have those self-tapping screws grip onto it. Hopefully by doing this, I have not compromised the strength of those self-tapping screws. Come on. Uh-oh. Where'd it go? There it is. Now, I've got all of those, and is there still another one somewhere holding it in place? I can't see it. Do I need to flex the case a little? There is. Unless if there's one over here somewhere. You can tell how experienced I am at stripping keyboards apart, trying to hunt for these miscellaneous screws. Already took that one off earlier. Well, nope, it looks like I just needed to pick it up in the right spot, maybe. I feel like I'm going to potentially break this, which I really don't want to do because it is actually quite nice keyboard. Look at that, there was one screw. What a bugger. Well, hopefully I haven't damaged things too much. So what I can say is these screw placements are also really, yeah. Is that a standard case? I don't know. Alright, so let's just check the back of this. Okay. They're all SMD components. They're very well soldered by the looks of it. It's a very plain PCB, and we can see a lot of that column traces. Got a lot of components here, and we can see that this was actually a 2017 September PCB, which is pretty cool. 1.6, and it does comply to the removal of hazardous substances, so there shouldn't be any lead on this. What I can say is that the plate material is plastic. It doesn't feel cold enough to be metal, and it definitely does have edges like plastic, so I'm just going to hazard it to say that it is plastic. Other than that, it's very clean, it's very neat. There's nothing too particular. They've put a whole bunch of sort of components around the edges, and then you've got diodes across each one of them. But unlike a lot of keyboards, they haven't labeled the switches, but they've only labeled the diodes. So there's diode numbers against each one of these. So if you do have a diode failure, then you probably could actually come in here and replace those diodes if you know. Although I'm not quite sure what they've done in terms of boxing and compartmentizing the silkscreen on here. Now the case is pretty interesting because there's nothing here, but there's like this empty space there. It's almost like it was designed so that you could stick something through it for like a reset or a dip switch kind of access port, which lines up with the square here on that PCB. And I'm just wondering if that was fairly standard for a 60%. It looks pretty standard. Off memory, that could be fairly standard for a 60%. Not that I have a 60% PCB right here with me to compare. Anyway, I'm going to put this quickly back together. It doesn't look like I've dealt any damage to it from flexing that screw that was hidden. And yeah, so let's go back to my conclusions. Once again, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised at how well this keyboard has performed in this review. It's got some really nice lighting modes. It's got a hard reset in it. It's got great switches, and you can see you would probably easily be able to swap these out if you don't want the actual box whites and you want to change it to something else. Maybe you want to go to box navies or box jades or something like that if you want to change it up a bit. The plastic plate and the plastic housing does add a bit of depth to it, and if you want to even dampen it some more, you just take these screws out and there's heaps of space where you can put maybe some foam underneath it, bit of dampening in it. And of course, besides these really dodgy stabilizers, everything else seems to be pretty decent. Of course there's flex, but it's plastic, the plate's plastic, case is plastic, but it's ABS, so you should expect a reasonable amount of protection. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm just gonna keep on putting these back in, and I'll just pop those other keys back on it, and then we can wrap it right there. I'm gonna put these bloody clunk, clunk. I suppose it does make it easier having those inserts already in, because you just have to line them up in the slot. Now I'm gonna actually flip these around, and I'll see if the flip's gonna work, because I like flipped space bars. Yeah, that flip works with that, so that's good. If I was going to be using this on an extended period of time, I would probably put O-rings on these, only because that's just a personal preference. I like putting on the O-rings just to give it a bit of a dampening to it, to reduce the bottoming out sounds. But even without it, to be honest, I'm actually not too fussed about that, because it does actually sound pretty reasonable with without O-rings as it is. Function key, and we're done. And here we go. So let's just jack that back in to appreciate a little bit of a light show. So that is the MOTOSPEED CK61, and of course it is available through GearBest. Now, if you like this video, of course, please hit the like button, give me a thumbs up. If you like my videos in general, make sure that you subscribe so you can check out more of these things as I have opportunity to get them. If you want to check out the actual keyboard and what its current price and any special deals that GearBest have, I would really love it and appreciate it if you wanted to check it out using the link in the video description below, because of course if you check it out through there, it helps me, and then GearBest will help us together in possibly sending me more stuff to review, which would be really, really awesome. Now, we do have a podcast series called The Board Podcast, and it's all about mechanical keyboards, and we talk about mechanical keyboards, things happening in the community, community vendors, group buys, so on and so forth. You can find that at www.theboardpodcast.com. Now, if you've been following us, or if you're new and you like this kind of stuff and you'd like to support us, you can also head over to our Patreon page. You can just search for The Board Podcast at Patreon and get behind us that way. And of course, if you just feel like buying me a coffee, then we also have links below to support that as well. If this is before the 5th of March 2018 when you check out this video, the 1200 subscriber video, 1200 subscriber competition is still going ahead. So please check out the Gleam link below, also as part of this video, for your chance to win a different 60% keyboard that I built, which I will be happy to send anywhere in the world. So thank you once again very much for coming along and checking out this video. And of course, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.